Hey, if you've made it this far, congratulations. You have learned so much about instruments, and I really hope that you've found this to be really helpful in purchasing your instruments. This last video is just some very final thoughts and considerations to take into account when you're purchasing your instruments. Whether you already have a collection and you're just growing your collection, or if you're buying your very first instruments and you're starting out, that's very exciting. Just some final things to think about. Before I get into that, if you've enjoyed learning with me, and if you are a sound healer, if you already have kind of started leading sessions, you might be a good candidate for Sound Healer Business Accelerator, which is my signature coaching program. It's 6 months of working with me, where I help with business and taking your business off the ground as a healer. We get into playing the instruments and sounding amazing on gongs, bowls, and other instruments like handheld percussion instruments, chimes, shakers, things like that. And then we also get into some energy work and deepening your understanding of energy so you can really be a more powerful healer. So if that interests you, feel free to check me out on Instagram at The Meta Musician, send me a DM, and let's chat. Anyway, so let's get into just these final thoughts to have in mind when you're purchasing your instruments. Having more variety, just having variety in your instruments is ultimately going to be a really good thing. It's going to allow you to have more thoughtful and deep sessions. You're going to be able to evoke so much more emotion through the variety of sound that you have. And this is something I talk about in my course, but it's really good for this very important reason, which is that everyone responds differently to sounds. Everyone reacts differently to specific sounds. Maybe if you're a seasoned pro, maybe you've already experienced this, but in a session, you might play an instrument that one person loved. And they come up to you afterwards and they're like, I loved the sound of that. I loved that instrument. And then same group of people, same session, another person walks up to you and said, I don't like that. That did not make me feel good. That brought up all this anxiety, and I felt scared and I felt nervous when that sound was happening. It happens. People have different associations with different sounds. So a way to kind of avoid triggering people in this type of work is to just have a lot of variety in the sounds that you're able to produce. And the thing is that we naturally are drawn to different sounds. Maybe you love a gong with a strong fundamental pitch. Maybe you love a lot of overtones. Nothing is inherently good or bad. There's just different sounds. And I hope that this little course has helped you distinguish between what those differences are. I would urge you, if you have a preference towards one type of sound, to get what jibes with you first. Build your collection around what you like, but then after you have a few things that you know that you like, go with things that are almost even opposite from that. Go with things that are different than that so that you have things that kind of balance out and create more variety. If you're on a budget, I mentioned this before, but I would definitely recommend buying bigger instruments, metal instruments especially, more expensive instruments secondhand. So things like gongs and bowls, people are always selling those secondhand on Facebook groups, or maybe locally in your area on Facebook Marketplace. I'm sure there are other ways also that you can find them secondhand, but I would recommend buying it, especially gongs secondhand, and then also crystal bowls. Like, the only thing that could happen is they might have some like visible like imperfections, like maybe they've gotten a little bit dirty or something like that, but like it's not going to make them sound any different if they've been used a little bit. And then invest in smaller instruments like koshi chimes or shakers or things like that. Those instruments can be quite inexpensive. So if you're on a budget, you can buy a gong for $500 or less if you can find it secondhand. You can get a set of bowls, or start with 4 bowls. That would be my recommendation if you're on a budget and you really want to get started with this. Secondhand is going to be the way to go. And I think I already said this, consider buying instruments opposite from what you have. Like if you have a large, thick chow gong, maybe try a smaller, thinner wind gong just to have more compare and contrast in your variety of instruments. Okay, so that's it for this video. That's it for this course. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you found this to be helpful. If you did, feel free, please message me on Instagram at The Meta Musician. Let me know what resonates. Let me know what was helpful. Let me know what you ended up with. If you ended up buying some instruments, take a picture, tag me, post it in your stories. I'd love to see and hear from you. All right, until next time, see you later.